All right, we got one more guy on the upside here. Taylor, you have Javon Baker as an up candidate. Now,
controversial.
Wasn't great. Yeah, wasn't great in the offensive game, but made an impact on special teams. Just looking now, stats-wise, Baker was no receptions on 2 targets. Looked like he dropped one. Another one was thrown behind him, as you mentioned earlier. What are you seeing, though, from him on special teams that makes you feel like, A, he helped himself, and B, he's more likely than not to actually make this roster come Tuesday?
Yeah, so one, let's just acknowledge there were 2 slants, his targets. The first one he dropped, even though I don't think it would have been a conversion. And then the second was behind him, so give him some credit for that. But he had a penalty, didn't he? What was it? There was another play. The offensive pass interference on the screen. I think that might have had to do with Cole Strange's high snap, to be fair. But still, we have known this whole preseason that Javon Baker needs work as a receiver. I don't think I wouldn't say he hurt himself because he hadn't really gained a whole lot of ground in that vein. He had a good practice against the Vikings, but in games he had been very up and down, even though he had a catch last week. But what was going to get Javon Baker a role right now was working on special teams, making tackles, being an effective gunner, those kinds of things. And that's what he did. He even got a chance to return a kick. Didn't go great or anything, but hey, it didn't look like he hesitated and he didn't fumble it. Last year when he was a kick returner, it looked a lot shakier. So had a solid return there, but also the fact that you had the gunner rep where he draws the unnecessary roughness. That's one play. He actually, in the Vikings joint practices, there was one rep where I think he was a jammer and blocked somebody to the ground, and it almost started a fight where he was talking on the sideline. Stephon Diggs was kind of yapping as well. It reminded me a bit of that. And then the awareness for him, the returner called a fair catch, but he ran his blocker into the returner, and you're allowed to do that because it was the offensive player interfering with the punt that caused the fumble. That was a cool play. And you've seen Javon Baker show up. There was once last week he had a good rep as a gunner, but every week he has shown up, made 2 plays today, also had 2 plays against the Commanders. So for me, I wouldn't say he's a lock, but I think it's a Marcellus Dial situation where you didn't want Marcellus Dial playing cornerback for you last year, but you liked him as a gunner. And I think that Javon Baker has shown more as a gunner than Marcellus Dial did last season. So to me, I think that he helped himself because he continued to show that he can make a contribution on special teams. While if there is something there on offense, if he at some point gets the confidence and starts to really become more consistent as a receiver, that's awesome. But for right now, he looks like a quality special teams addition who can not only, be a gunner, but also maybe make blocks and be a guy who can contribute in multiple phases there. So really cool to see that from Javon, man. This was a guy who I wasn't sure how he was going to make this team going into the summer, really all the way back in the spring. But now finally seeing him build consistency somewhere is very cool.
I think it's really cool because we talked about it a little bit the other day, but he seems like he is at a good space, mentally. We've talked about his kind of off-field issues and maybe the attitude adjustment that he might need. He's kind of made some offhand comments last year, what have you. When he spoke about Mike Vrabel the other day, his face just lit up, and he seems to be really happy about being on this team. Mike Vrabel, he's one of Vrabel's guys, kind of like I just mentioned Jeremiah Webb is. So I think it's cool to see him go out there and work really hard on special teams because it's not always the glory, right? You're not necessarily making a nice catch down the field. You're not scoring touchdowns. You're gunning guys down on the punt team and the kick team to make tackles. But he's done it. He's done it pretty well. He got a chance on kick return today. He had one return for 23 yards, which it was fine. He didn't necessarily hit a hole or break a tackle or anything, but I think he does have a spot on this team as a special teamer. I do, and I like the analogy to Dial last year where, you didn't want him necessarily on the defense, but this season, before he unfortunately went down with his knee, he was a special teamer. And then he also showed some growth on the defensive side of the ball, Dial did, where maybe you keep Baker around and you see that on offense next season and go from there.